You know, it's interesting how it's all come together. Good evening, viewers. I'm Preeti Chaudhary and you're watching To The Point, and we're going to take you to Tamil Nadu. Like we pointed out, just a month to go in for elections. The BJP till now, if you've seen over and over again, has always been targeted in Tamil Nadu, the centre primarily, for Hindi imposition, trying to impose Hindi. So when the Prime Minister comes out and says that I regret not learning Tamil, the oldest language, what does that mean politically?
Narendra Modi says that India is one tradition, one history, one language, one culture. What does he mean? Does he mean that Tamil is not an Indian language? We don't want this type of an India, where one idea dominates all other ideas.
Rahul Gandhi embracing Tamil language and culture in his latest attack on the BJP. The theme intensifying now for over a month in a super high-profile campaign in poll-bound Tamil Nadu. Rahul's new assault coming on the back of both the Prime Minister and Home Minister expressing regret just hours before over not being able to speak to the people of Tamil Nadu in their language. First by Amit Shah on the ground in Tamil Nadu's Villupuram last week.
मैं बड़े दुख के साथ आप लोगों के सामने क्षमा मांगना चाहता हूं कि मैं भारत की सबसे पुरानी भाषाओं में से एक, सबसे मधुर भाषाओं में से एक तमिल भाषा में आपसे बात नहीं कर सकता। इसका मुझे बहुत बहुत दुख है और इसके लिए मैं आपसे क्षमा मांगना चाहता हूं।
And then Prime Minister in his weekly Mann Ki Baat speech.
मेरी एक कमी ये रही कि मैं दुनिया की सबसे प्राचीन भाषा तमिल सीखने के लिए बहुत प्रयास नहीं कर पाया। मैं तमिल नहीं सीख पाया। भारत ऐसी अनेक भाषाओं की स्थली है जो हमारी संस्कृति और गौरव का प्रतीक है।
Modi also broke into bits of Tamil to greet the nurse who administered his COVID shot today.
I feel honored that I had an opportunity to do this. So I was vaccinated in the morning, the first dose. Second dose will be in 28 days. He asked us our whereabouts, where are we from. When I told I'm from Puducherry, he tried talking in Tamil. He told Vanakkam and all.
Playing defender of the Tamil language has been a considered political decision by the Congress leader for the upcoming election, and draws from the anti-Hindi imposition sentiments of the Congress's ally, the DMK, whose chief M.K. Stalin famously proposed Rahul's name for Prime Minister back in 2019. Rahul Gandhi has taken the mission to heart, stacking up the Tamil culture imagery with dancing, tumblers of chai,
Rumba, Nalla tea, best tea in Tamil Nadu,
and savouring the local palm fruit. But he's also made it a point to leave no opportunity to go on the offensive in defence of Tamil language and culture.
They believe that they can suppress the emotions of the Tamil people. They believe that they can suppress the spirit of the Tamil people. I came to give them a message that nobody is going to suppress the Tamil spirit.
The emotive issue has expectedly sparked a sustained crossfire. As the state of war heats up in Tamil Nadu, expect more and more invocations of this ancient language. With Pramod Madhav in Chennai, Bureau Report, India Today.
So what happens now in the mix? Because the Prime Minister in Mann Ki Baat invoked Tamil, saying, I regret not learning Tamil. It's a beautiful oldest language. I regret not learning it. What does that mean? Is there political messagery behind it? Tamil Nadu is going into elections in a month's time. And what happened to all the charges against the BJP when it came down to Hindi imposition, which was also politicized? Let's cut across right now to our guest this evening. I have Narayan Tirupati, BJP spokesperson. I have Mohan Kumara Mangalam, Congress spokesperson. And I have Narayan Lakshman, associate editor, Hindu. Would like to connect to Mr. Tirupati first. Mr. Narayan Tirupati, what made the Prime Minister said this? Because it's now being read politically speaking. Because till now, you know, the RSS theory of one nation, one language, which even Rahul Gandhi said, that is what, you know, the RSS believes in. You've had various charges where the BJP is concerned on Hindi imposition, especially in Tamil Nadu, where replies have been given by the ministers to questions in Hindi, condolence messages have been given in Hindi without even an English translation. So what has changed? Or was this just an off-the-cuff remark, nothing to do with elections?
RSS is the only organization which says that from first standard to 8th standard, the students should learn in their mother tongue. It has been saying right from 1925 when RSS was started. And we in BJP and RSS, I am proud to be an RSS person, we always say that our mother tongue is equal to our motherland. So we need to understand that whatever you have been saying, that Rahul Gandhi was saying, that is Congress's stand. It was Congress that has made Hindi as an official language, in spite of Lakshmikanta Maitreya and all our leaders previously in Jansang or even RSS. We all said that no, we should have a common language where southern and also northern people speak. But it was Congress, everybody knows. You can just visit the Constituent Assembly where this language debate was going on, official language. So there is no point in still saying that BJP wants to impose Hindi. Hindi was imposed by Congress only. So there is no point. Rahul Gandhi always lies. Even the Supreme Court has said, be careful, Rahul. He has lied in the Rafale issue, and we all know that. So it is Congress which has been imposing Hindi, and it is BJP and RSS. We are giving importance to all regional languages. It is not surprising Mr. Modi has said this because he is the first Prime Minister, he is the only Prime Minister who has spoken about Tamil language right from he has become Prime Minister from 2014.
Mr. Tirupati, before I go to the other guests, I want to ask you a quick question. You said you've also been in the RSS. Now, do tell me, sir, the long advocated policy of the RSS, and tell me if I'm wrong and tell me if I've interpreted it otherwise. One nation, one language.
See, one nation, one language is something like, this official language. It's a linked language. Instead of English, we should have a linked language, but see, in the Constituent Assembly, we have taken it as we have taken. It is a law.
So what would that linked language be then?
Our linked language. The linked language is Hindi. That is, who made it? Did RSS do that? Did BJP do that? It was Congress. That's what I said. You go to the Constituent Assembly proceedings, you see what Dr. Ambedkar had said. So many things. Even our leaders have said. We have discussed. So, official language, we should have only one language. That is what we have been saying. Even Dr. Ambedkar has said that.
Okay, Mr. Tirupati, I'll come back to you as well, because there's been, it's not just at the basis of this comment. There's enough happened, like I pointed out, where answers by, various ministers have been given in Hindi without a translation in English. Condolence messages have only been given in Hindi without an English translation. I'll come back to it. There's been enough angst over Hindi imposition where the BJP is concerned. Whether it's right or wrong, it's open to debate. Let's cut across to the Congress spokesperson, Mr. Kumaramangalam. Mr. Mohan Kumaramangalam, like the BJP spokesperson just said, in effect, it's the Congress who's made Hindi the official language. It's the Congress is doing. And now the Congress is trying to make the BJP look bad.
Ordinarily, the BJP would go all the way back to our first Prime Minister, Mr. Nehru, to blame everything that they can't defend. I'm impressed that Mr. Tirupati has now gone all the way back to the Constituent Assembly before we became a republic. I want to say that the Prime Minister often does this. He talks really, him and his party, from both ends of their mouth. And I find his comments extremely disingenuous because he doesn't put, for a fact, he doesn't put his money where his mouth is. If you take the 5 classical languages outside of Sanskrit, which is Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and Odia, the government spent a total of 29 crores on their promotion, whereas they spent 643.84 crores on Sanskrit. Therein lies the truth about what the Prime Minister actually feels about other languages, other classical languages, as compared to Sanskrit. He can say what he wants. None of his remarks are ever off the cuff. The only reason he's made this remark is because we're now going into polls in Tamil Nadu. And the only reason he found someone who was from Puducherry in to give him the vaccine is because we were going into polls in Tamil Nadu. And the other person was from Kerala because Kerala is also going into polls and he wore a scarf from Assam. So nothing the Prime Minister ever says or does is off the cuff clearly. It's all with a plan. And the plan is to try and make the people of Tamil Nadu feel that he's actually defending their rights and their language. Whereas In fact, if you look at the data, it is far from the truth.
Sir, you've invoked data. What data are you talking about?
I'm talking about the center having spent 640 crores on the promotion of Sanskrit in the last 3 years. This is 22 times the amount they've spent on all the other classical languages. That is Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, and Odia. That's the data I'm talking about. I'm talking about that in 2017-18, the Central Institute of Classical Tamil was given an allocation only of 10.59 crores. In 18-19, that fell to 4.65 crores. I would like to know if the Prime Minister feels it's one of his personal failings that he hasn't been able to spend enough time learning Tamil. What has he done for the promotion of Tamil across the country? If indeed he feels so personal about that language, what has he done to promote it?
All right, stay with me. Let's cut across right now to Associate Editor, The Hindu, Narayan Lakshman. He's with us. Narayan Lakshman, how important will all this play out? Keeping in mind you're just about less 6 days, a month before your state polls. Commentaries such as this, positioned at a time like this?
Yeah, I think, Preeti, how it plays out, it really depends on some very, big picture factors. And that has to do with the importance of the Tamil language in Tamil Nadu historically and what it means today to the people. And let's not forget that this is the state of the Dravidian movement. In 1967, the Dravidian parties uprooted the Congress and transformed the political landscape based on issues of language, based on state autonomy, and based on what they called Dravidian nationalism at the time. So these are very deeply felt sentiments of a very unique ethnic heritage that the Tamil people have. And yes, sure, the Dravidian movement has moderated its form. It has become far more inclusive, far less secessionary as it used to be in the 1950s and 60s. But at the same time, there is a sense of Tamil uniqueness that the voter of this state feels. And that is why the BJP has found among even the southern states, Tamil Nadu to be the most resistant to its overtures in terms of the Hindutva politics. So I think, I must agree with the Congress spokesman, not because I fundamentally always agree with them, but on this issue, that there is a sense of timing that one cannot ignore that's so close to the election, as you also pointed out. But at the same time, you must ask why language? Why is he picking up that and trying to make a very personal link to it that he wished he had learned it? He is saying so because he is trying to say that, look, stop considering my party, which is traditionally seen as a Hindu-based, upper caste, North Indian, Brahmin-dominated party, as one that actually belongs to all of India or certainly belongs to the Tamil people. Now, we can have an endless debate about how effective that is. But at the same time, I think all your viewers should be aware of this very rich and deeply felt heritage and history that the Tamil people have, and what the BJP is trying to change and convert into something else overnight before the election.
All right, let's take that directly to Mr. Narayan Tirupati from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Sir, what the Congress spokesperson also said, I'll give you certain examples which I gave you in terms of the condolence messages, the answers by ministers which have come in Hindi. The introduction of that 15-minute Sanskrit news in regional channel where DD was concerned. Now that also took in a lot of backlash, where it did, sir. I'm just giving out some. Go ahead, but you go ahead. I'm just putting out figures there.
First of all, I would like to remind my friend that the Sanskrit development has taken place right from 1957. And it is Rashtriya Sanskrit Sansthan, New Delhi, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Rashtriya Sanskrit Vidyapita, New Delhi, Rashtriya Sanskrit Vidyapita, Tirupati, all these were started by Congress regime. And in 2014-15, it was 8 crore and 11.99 crores in 2015-16. And it was 5 crore in 16-17, 10.59 crores in 17-18. It definitely dropped to 4.65 crore in 2019-19. But they have not told how much they have contributed to the development of Tamil as funds from central government during their rule. And to other languages like Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Odia, all these languages, they have given only rupees 2 crores. And Tamil has got a separate institute for this Tamil language. We have to understand. Now all other states has got their own language. All these linguistic states, they have their own language. Sanskrit does not have one. Sanskrit is not a mother tongue to anybody. We have to understand this. So when you have a very helpless child, you will definitely spend more on That's what we are saying. That's what we have been doing. And this is there for a very long time. It's not that only BJP is doing like this. It is a system which has been followed. And you cannot suddenly during politics, election time, you can blame. I don't understand what Mr. Narayan Lakshman says. BJP is not trying to change anything in a single day. Nobody can do that. I am a Tamilian. I am proud of my language. My language is the oldest language.
Okay.
100%. That's what we are saying.
Okay, sir. Do you think there is a... Okay, so let's put it this way. Do you think there was a turnaround, a political turnaround that has been affected primarily because, let's say, what Mr. Amit Shah said on Hindi Day to now him saying, even Amit Shah has gone ahead and said, I wish I knew Tamil. Now, would you say there's a turnaround? And it can happen. There's nothing wrong in accepting that.
As a Home Minister, as per Constitution, what he should have said, he has said. And the same thing, in fact, more than that, Mr. P. Chidambaram, when he was the Home Minister, he had said. He only said, Vetikattiya Tamil. Now, my friend Kumar Mangalam, can he deny that what Mr. Chidambaram had said when he was the Home Minister?
Fair point.
On Hindi Divas, they have to say, it is a Constitution. In Constitution, we were promised we will develop Hindi. They are saying what is wrong in it. It is not that whoever develops Hindi, they will hate Tamil. It is not so. My Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, my leader, Mr. Modi has been speaking about Tamil right from 2014. No other Prime Minister in this country has spoken like this.
No, sir. One thing I guess, yes, you're a proud Tamilian. that is coming in. But let's cut across to the Congress spokesperson there. He has a point, Mr. Kumara Mangalam. What did, if you go back to the speech of Mr. P. Chidambaram when he was Home Minister on Hindi, they was quite similar to that of the one which was effected by Amit Shah. And Mr. Amit Shah now...
Let me take a second to say that I did not bring up the Hindi Divas issue. Preeti, you did. I'm not comparing it or using it to say that this shows that the BJP is actually imposing Hindi. I have repeatedly quoted, and I must say that even if Sanskrit is an orphan, as Mr. Narendra Modi says so, spending 22 times more than all the other languages combined just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Also, there is a reduction. If you look at all the data out there, there is a 56% reduction, for example, in Tamil language research grants that has happened as well. If there is a perception in Tamil Nadu, and I find that perception to be true, not only in Tamil Nadu, but all southern states where you start seeing signboards coming up with the Hindi that were never there before, etc., that there is an imposition or there is a feeling that Hindi is the national language, and there is official language, by the way, you should separate from the word national language. Many BJP leaders have said that in the past, that Hindi is our one national language. If there is that kind of perception, it is not going to be removed by the Prime Minister suddenly saying that he regrets that he can't learn Hindi right on the eve of an election. People are going to see right through it. This is just typical lip service. It happens during every election.
Narayan Lakshman, would you reckon somewhere down the line, because a lot of elections are fought in the name of the Prime Minister, he is their biggest star campaigner, a lot of votes fall in the name of the Prime Minister, it is a definitive move to separate himself from his party. Yes, BJP, has been in the dock where Hindi imposition is concerned. They've got a lot of flag, but here, listen to me. This is what I have to say.
No, Preeti, I actually think it's the other way around. I think the Prime Minister, as you correctly said or implied, there is a presidential style of politics now that has taken over the country, especially so far as the BJP and Prime Minister Modi are concerned. And he is actually trying to say the opposite, which is my entire party is one which is very open to languages. Again, we leave aside the question of whether or not that argument flies with the people of Tamil Nadu. But I think the point there is, look, we have traditionally had this image, but now we are changing. And I think particularly two things. One, it is an outreach to the youth of Tamil Nadu, the young voters who may not have that sense of history of the Dravidian movement, as I said, of what the language meant, of how, for example, it was used by all the leaders, from Karnanidhi to MGR, Jayalalitha, in the cinematic medium to promote their message through propaganda. That way, the youth are cut off from that, and the BJP is trying to reach out to them. The second point, Preeti, is that this is a very, very carefully choreographed social media messaging technology, where they actually, or a strategy rather, where the Prime Minister, by saying these lines and the Home Minister very quickly following suit. We've seen this on Twitter, for example, the text of various posts across the top ministers in the cabinet and so on is the same. They use this in their future social media messaging strategy, and it gets echoes. And of course, that's where the timing question comes in. They were not doing this in December or last October because social media is very short timeline. So they're doing it now because it will have echoes. It will be tweeted and retweeted right through the election. And therefore, they hope give them greater credibility.
You know, Mr. Tirupati, let me come in for a quick comment from you before I close the show. You know, what is really interesting in all of this is, why is it so difficult to accept that there's been a turnaround? You know, look at Jallikat on what happened and how the BJP handled that and what, you know, your stand is right now, where Jallikat is concerned. You know, that's also regional pride, Tamil chauvinism, all of that does come into that. So what's the harm? Admit that, yeah, we're trying to change course. We understand, you know, that political terrain is different here.
See, politics played a lot in Jallikattu because Jallikattu, it was banned when Congress was in government. You all know that, but we have been saying this. But you know, you people like the opposition and also media in Tamil Nadu were trying to create as if BJP was against Jallikattu. It was Jairam Ramesh who had added bulls into the list where animals cannot be, this thing. So it was Jairam Ramesh's GO, and that's what the reason for the Supreme Court to ban Jallikattu. It was the BJP government which had asked the state government to bring Jallikattu by an ordinance. So we have been saying this. You talk about need, it was brought by DMK and the Congress. You take whatever the charges are in language or culture, anything. It was all done only by Congress. We have only changed it. But unfortunately, my dear friend Mr. Narayan Lakshman and a few others in media, they are saying that BJP is against Tamil culture. It is not so. I am a proud Tamilian. My RSS have been.
Sir, nobody is denying that. We give you that. I think that the last half hour has been an ode to you being a proud Tamilian, and yes, I think we've got you in a bad spot. You're trying to defend a party which till now has at least seemingly
not at all.
Seemingly had that.
No. I am a proud Tamilian. My party is always with the local languages.
All right, sir. Okay, appreciate you gentlemen for joining us. Thank you. We'll know how it all plays out, you know, when the last vote is counted, because yes, regional pride is so big where Tamil Nadu is concerned, pretty much tied in to their electoral platens. Quick break. Up next is Rahul Kanwar. Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.